Good morning, Sheriff Hermann. Oh, what tangled webs we weave when we practice to deceive. Get back to that in a minute. First of all, joking aside, it's not a good idea to go sending flowers to a judge. Whilst it was a very novel publicity stunt, I quite admired the style of the thought of sending a judge flowers. I thought that was quite humorous, quite clever idea. The only trouble is, once again, guilt is you've probably shot yourself in the foot, because there will probably be repercussions down the line. In fact, on our side, we've been expressly told not to contact judges, particularly, for example, the ones involved in Brendan's appeal. And of course, we all respect that, because it's definitely something that should be observed. So I suppose you could ask the question, well, what about me contacting you and even sending an email and getting a reply from Mark Wiegert? Well, first thing I would point out is, of course, the first thing that both of you put in your reply was you both thanked me for my concern. And I am genuinely concerned for both of you, because you still align yourself with Ken Kratz. And why? Okay, for you, he was the hero in 2007. Incidentally, going back to the previous video about the statement, reasonable doubt is for innocent people statement, you got to remember that at the time, officially at that time, Steve was innocent. So therefore, Kratz, by that statement, is actually admitting that Steve's presumption of innocence no longer existed at that time. And of course, we all know what caused that. The problem now is that even guilters realise and accept the fact that the sweaty press conference was just a figment of his depraved mind. We now know, based on the fact that at least 15 women have come forward, that Kratz is a self-centred, sweaty, sadistic, sexting sack of SH1T. Of that, there's no doubt. Millions of people throughout the world have come together thanks to Making a Murderer in support of Steve and Brendan. So I would very much like to take this opportunity. I know it's only at the start of December, but I'd like to wish everybody a happy Christmas and a Merry New Year when it comes from Scotland, here in Scotland. Which leads me back to my little bit of poetry at the start. Oh, what tangled webs we weave when we practice to deceive. It's from a book called Marmion, and it's by Sir Walter Scott. Now, Robert, you'll remember perfectly well that I sent you a postcard. And on that postcard was a picture of none other than Selkirk Sheriff Court, where Walter Scott was the sheriff in 1799. And of course, Walter Scott, then later to become Sir Walter Scott, is a great author. As I say, he was the sheriff of Selkirk. Now, I must explain, sheriff in Scotland is not the same as it is in America. In Scotland, a sheriff is the judge. Okay, so in fact, he was the sheriff, the judge of Selkirkshire, the county of Selkirkshire, of which Galashiels is a part of. As I say, Sir Walter Scott, forever remembered as a great author. What will Sheriff Hermann be remembered as in years to come? The meaning of that short phrase, oh, what tangled webs we weave when we practice to deceive, should be fairly apparent. It means that you end up telling more and more lies to cover up the original lie. You just make things more and more of a mess. You tell one lie to cover the next lie, to cover the one before, and before you know it, you're just in a tangled mess in order to try and deceive. Bye for now.